Under the system of white supremacy, your perception is a white deception. Case in point, you're most likely perceiving the fact that my page has a low number of followers or likes as an indicator that my content lacks value. But the truth is that content that keeps the masses distracted, dumbed down, and thinking about subjects at a mental level where the ruling class wants them to be are the pages that are allowed to gain millions of views, shares, and followers. However, truly valuable content that has the potential to elevate the minds of the masses is heavily shadow banned, censored, and blocked. The general population doesn't know what's happening, and it doesn't even know it doesn't know. That's a quote from Noam Chomsky. Nonetheless, I still continue posting contents, although I'm being heavily shadow banned, censored, and blocked. Because there's immense power in the truth. The truth has a vibrational frequency that's more powerful than any lie. All you have to do is keep repeating and sharing the truth, and it will eventually prevail over the lies. We must never underestimate the power of planting seeds of truth into fertile minds. Minds once expanded to a greater radius by learning the truth never returns to their original smaller dimensions because the truth won't allow it to. The truth once seen cannot be unseen. The truth once heard cannot be unheard. Once explained cannot be unexplained. It's for this reason that the truth literally acts like a virus within the system of white supremacy that sits upon a throne of lies in order to sustain itself. This is why whenever we post truths that contradict their lies, Facebook shadow bans it, TikTok blocks it, Twitter deletes it, Google hides it, YouTube bans it, the white mainstream media censors it, and the white government forbids it. Enough with that introduction. The purpose of this video is to get you to look objectively at our collective mindset and see the profound contradiction in how many of us are thinking. We are thinking collectively in an illogical manner. There is no logical explanation for us blindly believing Caucasians other than that they have socialized us to revere and trust them, despite such a brutally horrific history to the contrary. And through this socializing process, they have put us in a collective state that's called thinking without actually thinking. The white society have us in a state where the white society is telling us what to think and what to believe, and we blindly accept it. Through their monopoly over information that we receive, they've conditioned us to blindly accept as true whatever they say. And most of what they tell us are lies that keeps us thinking and behaving in ways that are against our own collective self-interest, and instead in ways that serves and protects the interests of their white society. Through their fraudulent news reports that exaggerates and overemphasize the issue of black on black crime, they subliminally embed the lie into our minds that it's we who are now our worst enemies. Through their movies and TV shows constantly depicting themselves as being heroes and saviors righting all wrongs, they've given their racial group an inaccurate, favorable image makeover within our collective minds. It's the true reason why many black people now perceives ourselves as being our own worst enemies and reveres our oppressors in spite of such a brutally horrific history to the contrary. The Willie Lynch myth is being used to keep us distracted from learning the truth of what they've done to us. Because as long as our understanding of our collective condition is flawed, then all of our liberating strategies that stems from those misunderstandings will also be flawed. Those black people who insist that they've confirmed it for themselves that we are our worst enemies, or any of their negative assessments about our racial group, based upon their own individual experiences, are in fact delusional, because it's not humanly possible to accurately assess the collective state of millions of people based upon anyone's individual experiences. It's not humanly possible. Those false negative perceptions about our racial group were actually deliberately embedded into our collective minds by white propagandists who exclusively writes all black narratives, statistics, and who controls our mainstream media images. The white society literally owns our interpretation of our collective state, and it maintains its social dominance, its social capital, and control over the black masses by keeping us believing the fraudulent worst narratives about ourselves. It's the true reason why virtually all narratives that the black population receives about ourselves from the white society are consistently negative and black racially devaluing and black racially demoralizing. Now, when critically thinking, can't you see just how cartoonishly unrealistic this scenario actually is? It's astronomically improbable that all information about us would be consistently negative if the information were all true. Such a scenario where everything about us is negative is cartoonishly unrealistic. It's actually a well-proven control system. People are easily controlled by the information they receive about themselves. When people constantly receive positive, affirming information about themselves, this lifts their collective self-esteem, this unifies them, it raises their self-efficacy. This is all possible because people are like computers. All you have to do is keep giving them certain information every so often, and you can steer an entire generation towards an applied objective. It doesn't matter if the information is untrue. Most people will act accordingly to the information because they've all been given the same information. They respond and function based on the same information about themselves. Now, however, when people are constantly fed negative, demoralizing disinformation about themselves, the exact opposite happens. They become demoralized, divided, self-loathing, and more compliant with their oppressor's dominance over their lives. In fact, many will even prefer it. This also creates self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds the people, and they can then be ruled over forever. And again, the information being true, it doesn't matter. Most of the people will respond according to the information because they've all received the same negative information about themselves. This second scenario, this demoralizing scenario, is precisely what white oppressive forces are doing to the black population, keeping us believing the fraudulent worst narratives about ourselves is how they prevent us from unifying against the white oppressive society. This nefarious psychological warfare tactic works by tapping into the immense power that shame has upon the human mind to mentally enslave millions of black people. The oppressors now control the black population by imposing negative black racially demoralizing and devaluing narratives upon us. People often function based upon narratives imposed upon them. This has been proven countless times in regards to soldiers. When the narrative is imposed upon a soldier that they are the liberators, they are righting a wrong, they will then travel thousands of miles to another country and kill thousands, if not millions of people based upon the imposed narrative. Some soldiers will even lay down their lives on the battlefield to defend the narrative. It doesn't matter that the narrative is untrue. What only matters is that the soldiers believe that the narrative is true. Likewise, Other targeted populations can also be controlled by the narratives that have been imposed upon them by the ruling class. The white society created the false narrative that black people are now our own worst enemies and then imposed it upon the black population. Like soldiers, many black people accepted the false narrative as being true and then start functioning accordingly to the narrative against our own interests. The reason why many black people insist that they've confirmed their negative assessments about our racial group, although they have in fact not, is because once a false belief has been successfully embedded into the human mind, the individual will then only notice those little incidents that appears to confirm the false embedded belief, and will become psychologically blinded from noticing the greater amount of evidence refuting the embedded belief. Then, based upon this psychological blindness, the person will argue vehemently that he or she has witnessed for themselves that the embedded belief is true, although it's in fact not. People see only what they've been programmed to see. It's an inherent flaw within the human psyche that's called the illusionary truth effect. White oppressive forces have exploited this inherent flaw within the human psyche to trap millions of black people within a perpetual state of black self-contempt. That's the true reason why many black people now constantly makes unfounded negative generalizations about our own racial group. There's nothing normal about that. White oppressive forces achieve this by manipulating millions of black people to believe that we're our worst enemies. And then we then only notice those incidents that appears to confirm it. And then based upon those little incidents, we start insisting that it's true. Many of us start fighting against our own people in defense of the white society because we think we've confirmed it, although we have not. Case, point, and proof. Those black people who have been brainwashed by the white media controllers and white propagandists to believe that our racial group never supports each other, but are instead like crabs in a bucket, that only wants to pull each other down. Those who believe that and says that ignores the fact that during the 2008 election of President Obama, he received more black votes than any previous president in U.S. history. Millions of black people who had never before voted in any previous election registered and voted for Obama in 2008. In some states, black people stood in voting lines for up to 5 hours. During Obama's inauguration, millions of black people showed up in Washington, D.C. In record-breaking numbers at their own expenses, filling up those expensive hotels and standing outside in record-breaking cold temperature to witness President Obama being sworn in as the first African-American president. These facts and countless more totally destroys the lie that black people are like crabs in a bucket who never supports each other, that we only want to pull each other down. But once people have been programmed to see the negative, that's all they see. They don't see the positive. Our people are trapped in a state that's called thinking without thinking. It's a system of control that taps into the immense power that shame uses to mentally enslave millions of black people. And those black people who do not critically think never notices their mental change. This is not some feeble-minded premise, nor is it some conspiracy theory. It is the absolute truth. Media social engineering is a real covert and well-crafted system of control that allows the white ruling class to control the masses and targeted population. It's the truth that they don't want us to ever learn. If my pages were putting out dumb crap like a biblical fairy tale or Will and Schmidt, my stuff would be allowed to go viral. But I'm telling you the truth. The white side don't want us to learn is because once we learn the truth, we can then develop the proper counter strategies to overcome it. So they want to keep us believing in falsehoods. Brothers and sisters, it's time to elevate our minds. This year marks the 406th year since the first enslaved Africans were brought in chains to the U.S. It is now time to wake up. One love and peace.